sheriff's department, so we're gonna have them go first.
Yes, definitely.
That's what I thought you would agree.
Totally agree.
Susan Renee says she doesn't really put them in order, she just puts them in. We're good?
We're on.
All right. Let's break. We're called the select board meeting. It's September 1st, 2021.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we need a motion to sign the warrant?
Motion to sign the warrant.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
While signing, I can ask, motion to approve the minutes of August 16th. I make a motion?
18.
18th?
18.
18th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? And I can't do the 26th, though.
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes for August the 26th.
I will second that.
All in favor? Okay. Old business, AOS, feasibility ad hoc committee update. Nothing here.
I emailed Wanda, I don't think she's here, but, they have not had any action. There doesn't seem to be a call for it right now, so she's not. The, AOS feasibility ad hoc committee,
Oh,
it kind of, pandemic happened, and they haven't met, and they don't. So.
She died a natural death.
Yeah, she's kind of just of the opinion of,
Okay, so we're done.
Yeah.
So do we want to dissolve the ad hoc committee then? It's the
I'll make
select
that
board?
motion.
Second.
All in favor? Consider it dissolved. I see that we have Barry Curtis and Mike Crabtree here, so we'll let you, come right on up.
Pick up.
You want
Yeah.
chairs?
Chairs, yeah.
You want chairs? You want stand?
We're undecided.
You can sit on the couch.
I stand because the moving target's hard to hit.
I stand because he stands, so.
Just don't stand corrected.
My pace.
Yeah. Thank you. It's all my gray hair. How you doing? Good. How are you? All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
No.
You can sit.
You may sit, she says, yeah.
Well, who's on what? Jason? You brought this whole subject up last week. You go.
Yes, I've been approached by a lot of citizens up in Lubec regarding speeding, crime, four-wheelers being stolen, signs being shot up. So we have asked the sheriff's department to come here and address some of you folks' concerns and maybe get some more coverage in town. And it's not up to the select board on the coverage, it's up to you folks. You folks are the ones that have to vote it in, not us. So with that being said, I mean, Mike and Barry are very good folks. Feel free to ask them questions. Have at it.
Anyway.
Yeah, just to give you a little background, just in preparation of coming down here tonight, I tried to do a little bit of research in our system, but I did it on my phone. I think the CAD system is the same. I don't think I'm missing information than if I was sitting on my computer. There's been 94 calls for service for Lubec since January 1st to today. But that includes everything, right? That could either be criminal activity, it could be ambulance calls, it could be anything, just to give you guys an idea of, maybe how many calls are coming into the yard.
Do you have a breakdown, or could you get a breakdown of the kind of calls?
I can, I can't,
That might be helpful.
I can't do it, I can see them on my phone.
Yeah.
But when I'm actually at the computer, I can you know, pick any different calls and just get the number so we get the.
Is there a comparison to like previous, like a year ago, what was the number of calls that were made, do you know, just so that we have an idea? Is there a spike in calls or is there not a spike in calls?
Talk amongst yourselves and I will find out.
Okay.
Other questions? Well, Mike is checking.
Yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like, right now, Lubec, we have 8,000 in the budget for additional sheriff
Five.
time? Five. And that gets us,
It basically, we break that up into 4-hour,
okay,
we'll call them details for the lack of a better word. It's random, there's nothing set in stone.
okay.
That was part of the plan and design, so that we wouldn't know, okay, it's Tuesday, the cops will be here today.
So I guess I would wonder, are there other municipalities or towns that don't have their own police system, have some other arrangement with the sheriff's department that gives them better or more coverage? I think, like, from what I'm understanding in regards to what happened, or what is happening, is it's so far not major incidents of, like, you know, real irresponsible criminal malicious behavior in the evening and at night and early in the morning, and you know, we've had some damage to mailboxes, and is there some idea or precedent that kind of addresses that issues in any other towns like ours?
Is it Jones Foot's the only other one that?
Jones Board.
Jones Foot, that we do basically the same thing that what we're doing, you know, we're gonna present to you guys here,
Okay,
okay?
Yeah.
And,
okay,
you know, the whole thing is that, believe it or not, you know, we're still shorthanded, and we're doing the best we can with what we've got. But the other thing is, we're now covering, not only Machias's, they're in a mess, and there's nobody there, and so we're covering for them. And so that takes out of my patrol people. And now what we never done before, now we have a guy that, you know, has to be there, you know, there's a lot of calls in and out of there. Callis is having problems. You know, a little bit, you know, they're a little light too, and so we're trying to help them. You know,
Because they're losing police.
yeah, they're shot too, and then Machias is not right now, and they're working on it, but we've been covering them for the last 2 years.
4 years.
What?
We're helping out.
Oh, helping out,
Yeah,
but we've been
the
really
last
covering
2 or
them.
3, 4
That
years.
Yeah.
explains a lot of it.
what is, here's
Been struggling.
a silly question, I guess, but what is the state police presence in Washington County?
The who?
State police?
The who? You know, that's a funny joke for me. I did that for 25 years, and I patrolled down in this area for my last 15, and they've abandoned this area. And I don't mind telling you that, because they've abandoned us. You know, they're supposed to be helping us, and so we were sharing Washington County on a call share,
Mm-hmm.
and basically they aren't holding up their end, and they come in and ask us if we would do more. Well, what are they doing? You know, they're supposed to be helping, you know, too, and they're only covering a third of the patrol area now, so we have 2/3. Well, you know, and then half the time they'll call us, we're tied up in Hancock County. I don't care. You know, I mean, we're Washington County, we need you guys down here, but we're not getting the protection from them like we used to. I hate bashing them, but.
And I have that information. Now, I assume I can't break down the numbers as much on my phone as I can with my computer, so I'm using the keyword Lubec. But when I actually have my computer, I can actually isolate the town from all the other towns, but I think it's probably the same information. So in 2020, there were 180 calls for service in that calendar year. 2019, it was 146.
So it's
And that-
fewer this year.
Well, so far, but we're not to December.
Right, oh, I got it,
Right,
okay.
this was only to
I
today.
understand.
Right. And that's all inclusive, it's any call for service, regardless of what it is.
So we're about halfway through, a little more than halfway
Yeah, a
through
little
the
more
year,
than
and
halfway.
about halfway through the previous year's numbers.
Yeah.
Seems about consistent perhaps, there's no way of telling, obviously, but.
No, no, But what we have found in working through the numbers, and not just Lubec, countywide, when we're trying to figure out, different strategies and what we wanna do, the numbers seem to be within a few hundred of each other every year. With number of complaints, throughout the whole county, it seems to be pretty much the same with different towns as well. Could be up a little bit, could be down a little bit, but pretty close.
Do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's any programs that would allow us to instate something that's kind of like a neighborhood watch, where we have volunteers that can serve the community in your place.
The community anytime can set up something, a watch or a system and stuff, because you're still gonna have to rely on law enforcement to come down and enforce anything that's going on, and that way, we don't get the public involved in something that we shouldn't be involved in, and somebody gets hurt. We'll take those chances. But yeah, I just wish people would go back to the old days where we used to all watch after each other, and if somebody is, around Sally's home, they would call because they know they're supposed to be there taking, furniture out. But people don't do that anymore. They pull the shades down and just stay behind it, so. Gotta watch out for each other.
I agree with you, but then I think that still happens. I think there are
It's-
neighborhoods that do
Right, in our
that.
smaller communities there
Yeah.
are still,
Yeah.
but, still there's a lot of people that they don't wanna get involved in things, and we wish they would, and so that we can get involved.
A lot of folks don't have neighbors.
Yeah, for those of you who live outside of town, that's true. But I live in town, and we do look out for each other.
Yeah.
And if I could add to that, in town, it's the end of summer. Kids are just going back to school if it's school at first. And having been a teacher for too many years, I know where those kids are at the end of the summer. And if they've got a driver's license, they've got to do that. They're dancing hormones and godliness, whatever.
See, just as soon as you spoke, I knew you were a teacher because I get nervous. I just had a flashback there, so. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
From where would some help come if we called for help, say 911?
Currently, right now, they could come from anywhere in the confines of what we call slot 2, which is from Jonesboro to Robin. That's the slot. The way it's basically set up now is the county is broken down into 3 slots. Each deputy or trooper that has a slot, they have just under 1,000 square miles for one person. Now granted, not everybody lives in that 1,000 square miles, but, sometimes you have to be way and gone on the other side of Route 9. If there's camp breaks or accidents or anything like that happen.
So there's 2 people to be called, who might answer 911 calls, or how many people are there?
Well, when the call comes in, it comes into the dispatch center. There could be anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 people working there, depending on what's going on. But for the responding police officer, whether it's a deputy or a trooper, there's one that is responsible for that slot coverage, which in slot 2 is Jonesboro to Robinson. So that includes Lubec, it includes any of the little back roads in Pembroke, and, it includes up onto Route 9. So, depending on where they are, it could be, how soon they get. Pardon me?
It depends on how soon the one person.
Yeah, I mean, there may be other people working out in the county. We may have somebody on special assignment, the state police, their sergeant, may be in this area as well. But one person is responsible for this law.
But the thing is, if the deputy's busy on a call, you're not gonna get him right away.
Right, and how this works, it's not that somebody's call is not important. It's important, and it's certainly very important to the person that makes that phone call. But we sometimes often we have to judge on urgency. Which is the most urgent call? Just for example, if somebody was coming down here to respond to a theft, where it currently wasn't ongoing, the theft had occurred, we're coming down to investigate, get some information, get almost to Lubec, and now all of a sudden there's a serious crash in Jonesboro, the deputy is no longer coming to Lubec. Not because your call is not important, it's just less urgent at this time. Right, so somebody may have to, it may be a while, and somebody may have to get back down here a little bit later. And it's not just Lubec, that's with any town that doesn't necessarily have their own police coverage right now.
I have a question, you talk about the state police and the sheriff's department and stuff, we've also got game wardens here, we've got, border patrol.
Yeah.
And, why don't they get involved?
They do,
They do.
and we do rely on.
Well, I know whenever there's a major
Yeah.
incident happens, they all show up.
Right, but each person, well, each agency has their specific function.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, technically, any deputy can act on any fish and game violation.
Yeah.
Because it's state law. Typically, we don't do that, that's not our area of expertise. And like you said, if something major is going on, people will come. The issue with the border patrol and some of that stuff, they can't enforce state law.
Well, I
Just like we
understand
can't
that.
enforce federal
I'm just
law.
saying, when you break down the numbers, you say you've got so many officers for this locality and stuff.
Right.
But actually, there is more law enforcement
There
in
is,
this
there
area.
is, but, you know, we don't have the say over them.
Well,
That's the
I
only thing.
understand that, but I'm just saying, it takes them to break down.
Yeah.
You're saying that there's only 2 people to cover this area when there's actually several from different organizations. There are several that are covering this.
But listen to what we're saying on this. They can't, federal cannot enforce the state laws. And so they can come out here and back us up on anything that we have, and which they do, because that's what we try to do. We all try to work together. But as far as them being able to come over to do a burglary or any of that stuff, they can't do that. They have to wait for us, and then, you know, one of us will be covering it. It's like any federal law, we hand it over to them.
And in the same token, if you call, let's just say you call in a theft complaint. If you call, they're not gonna call a game warden or marine patrol to handle that. Now, if it's a theft that may have something to do with lobster or something marine patrol function, like maybe out of your wharf or something like that, maybe somebody would come, but I'm not sure. We'd certainly work with them, but they're typically not going to handle those complaints. No more than typically you're not going to see a deputy doing anything to do with fish and game laws or marine patrol laws.
You'll see a bunch of us together, if it's something really serious. Then everybody teams up and we all try to help each other out, because we know in the law enforcement family that we're shot. Everybody's shot. And so that's why we try to help each other. Yes, sir.
How many flocks in Washington County?
3.
Thank you.
One goes from Steuben to Jonesboro. The second flock goes from Jonesboro to Robinson. The third flock goes from Robinson to Aroostook County.
Thank
Just a
you.
little bit up past Dan.
I'm here this meeting because I have started reading stuff on our Facebook page where people have started to complain about certain things. And one of them was speeding, another one was, I think, crime, and stuff like that. And I guess my question to you is what do you think additional police presence would do to help with any of those situations? And what would be the best way of using you guys to help with some of those instances, because it might not be one size fits all. It might be that, for speeding that we have to do something different, or, there's a combination of things.
I think basically if we've got a program down here, you would give somebody to be able to concentrate more down here where it's a hit and a miss all the time with, if the other guys are patrolling, they may not get down in here a certain day or something, and then it would give them an opportunity to work. If you have a bunch of speeding problems, then they can concentrate on all of that. Also, it deters people not to do it. If you have somebody that's in the area a lot more. And, I know we try to get the guys to get down there, right? We need you guys to get off Route 1 and come down into these areas, come down into Eastport, come down into Lubec, Jonesport, because they have every now and then, it's easier to get to places, You drive all the way down here, and then you get called up on Route 9, and you gotta drive all the way out. So they kind of have it, so we push them all the time to get them off Route 1. It's good to be seen out there, but it's also be good to see them in other towns and stuff too.
And originally, how this started here, for us being here a few hours a week, for anybody that doesn't know, and I can't remember what year it was. It was
3 or 4
several
years
years
ago, right?
Yeah.
3 or 4.
You know, we had a similar conversation.
Oh, wow.
Look, things are going on, everybody knows about the drug problems in Washington County. You know, there was some talk back and forth, you know, should we get our own PD? Should we work with you guys? How should we do this? We talked about it and we said, look, let's try this first. Let's see if spending a little bit of money on some concentrated efforts helps with the issues at hand, and let's see how that goes. So that's how we originally came up with it. One of the issues, like in any town, right, everybody has a computer in their pocket, right? So everybody's on FaceSnap and Instant Chat and everything else. So the minute the cops are here, hey, cops are in town. All right, so now we're not gonna do anything, right? We're not gonna, you know, go out and speed and squeal tires or commit crimes or whatever because the cops are here. The minute we leave, everybody gets back on those, hey, they're out of town. And so we face that issue a lot. So,
I guess in this meeting is for us to maybe bring out the problems that we're facing right now and see what, if you have a specific way of targeting your presence to help us with those specific problems.
right, and we probably can. One of the issues we're facing right now is like what we just said. We're running out of us to go around, right? Because we have our regular coverage that we're doing anyway. And like the sheriff said, the state police have dropped down to a third because they're having troubles and issues with manpower. So now we're doing 2/3 of the work, 2/3 of the time. Then we have a PD that is trying to repair itself, right? So we're handling all the calls there. We have another PD in the same slot that's struggling because they're down with manpower. We've got one in another slot that is struggling, and we're now covering more complaints in that town than typically we would. Plus, we have Lubec, which has some money for some special patrols. Jonesport, we have some stone garden stuff. You know, we're just, hey, I need somebody, I need somebody, I need somebody. And we're just at capacity. So the short answer is maybe. We would certainly try to do that. Just for example, a couple weeks ago, one of the deputies called me and said, hey, look, we're having some issues, and it wasn't that. You know, I'd like to put together an extra detail and get some people together and just go down and work on some things. At the time, we didn't know if we had money or not. We knew the town meeting had happened, but we just hadn't, you know, found out if that got to be approved. Well, yeah, absolutely. And they, you know, they came down here with 3 or 4 people and made some stops and arrests and got some stuff done. That was productive and hopefully curbed some of that stuff for a few days.
So Mike, if the town was able to appropriate a larger sum to the discretionary fund for our times that you come in, would you even have the manpower?
And that's where the hit or miss is going to come in, right? We may, it depends on who's on vacation, what else we're committed to, those types of things.
Well, so nothing, so if you can't do it, the money wouldn't be spent anyway,
That's
so it's possible that we should
So
consider that.
Right, and part of the thing that I prepared a little bit is, some of you may or may not know, 100 years ago, the sheriff's office used to be here. We had a contract here. At that time, we actually lived in town, a couple of us that were here.
Yeah, there's 3 of you at one time.
Yeah, and so, that was all done back then, and so I do just have some figures, just so people know what we're talking about. If the town decided to hire full-time police protection, what I'm gonna call full-time police protection is 43 hours a week. That's the standard work week for deputies. It can be 43 hours a week because it's police work, it doesn't have to be 40. the cost for that, for one deputy, and that's including all the equipment, right from the ground up, is gonna be right around $160,000 a year. Now, that includes about a little over $97,000 with wages and benefits, and, you know, about another $63,000 for your computer, your guns, your car, all the equipment to go in the car, your radar, your portable, your regular car radio, all of that stuff.
So it would just be the first year?
That would be the first year, and how I figure that whenever anybody asks me about a figure, I figure it at a 5-year person coming to the sheriff's office, because that's the most expensive it can be, as far as the wage. In our contract, well, not our contract, in the union contract, we have the ability to lateral somebody from another agency or law enforcement experience. If they have 5 years post-academy experience, they can come in at this pay scale with vacation and sick timers and all that stuff at that rate. I also figure that with them coming in to take main state retirement. I also figured in for them coming in with a full family plan for insurance. Right, in that figure, I try to figure out, this is the most it can be. It can certainly cost less, but if all of these things happen, that's the higher fee.
Did that include a car?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
Mike, it was in the past when you guys were here full time, there was always at least 2, would you put 1 person here?
I wouldn't require somebody to live in town. They would be here for the amount of time that is covered, right? So if, and it's a big if, right, but it's just information. So if that was 43 hours a week, for the most of that 43 hours a week, they would be in town. There's always an exception to that, because you may have to, you know, put evidence over at the sheriff's office, you might have to be in court, you might have to do any number of those things. But it would be a requirement, and it's the same thing we do now. When you're doing this, the extra that we do now, that starts when you hit the corner, right? You know, that doesn't count traveling from your house and coming down. No, that time is spent down here. And, I mean, we have a gas card in the car, and we'll pay that difference.
I'm also concerned about the speeding on Washington Street.
Right.
And I wonder if there are other ways of solving it other than manpower, like better signage or traffic lights.
Well, you know, any signage, any traffic light issue, that has to be taken up with DOT, right, thank you. I was thinking Department of Labor, no, it's not that. You know, sometimes speed trailers are effective, right? At least if somebody doesn't realize they're going that fast, they see that blinker, whoa, I'm going too fast.
You guys haven't seen it yet, when the board is open either.
Right.
It's a whole lot more entertaining when the board is open. I can tell you that.
If hypothetically, if we were to do, hire a policeman, I'm just thinking, we are so close to Whiting and Trescott. I mean, we overlap all the time with everybody. Would it be to our advantage to have a policeman cover those areas as well?
That's not up to us.
Yeah, and that's something you would have to work out with your neighbors. I always said, you know, back in the 90s, I worked down here, I lived down here for 7 years and did the contract. I always said, you don't just police Lubec. You're policing Campobello, Trescott, Whiting, Lubec. Because at the time, especially back then, McGonigal was open, then it turned into 24 hours. You can't buy gas on the island, right? You couldn't get groceries.
That's right.
So Lubec was basically a service center. So everybody would come in.
And the bars were open.
Yeah, there were several bars.
But Mike, you're talking about adding another additional sheriff to be assigned to here, not a police.
Yeah.
Right, but, and really, and I'll get to those other questions, but how I would envision this working is you go for that coverage, somebody is assigned this area during those times. It could be different each day, right, because you're paying for that coverage. And yes, I understand you have to buy some equipment, you have to buy a car, you have to buy all of this stuff. But what we wouldn't do, and only because I lived it, you know, there won't be a Lubec cruiser. right? Because then everybody wants to know why the Lubec Cruiser
Yeah.
in Machina.
No, it'll just be an additional share.
It's
who-
just an addition.
And it would be rotating, its schedule would be, you wouldn't, I don't think you'd want a schedule that
We would
everybody
have,
needs to know what it is.
it would change, but we would come up with a schedule if this were to take place. It would be a mixture of days and nights,
And rotating.
and
between-
rotating, and you may get the same deputy for a week in a row. You may not.
Oh, okay.
It all depends on how this works, because we would have to incorporate into our regular stuff and rotations and what we do on an everyday basis. And the town is always, it's always available to you what's going on with your money. How is this being spent? What do we answer for calls?
Yeah.
You're not gonna get specifics, but you're gonna know, hey, we handled 24 calls last week, 5 were crashes, 4 were disorderly, there was 2 assaults, 1 burglary. Right, that stuff is public information. You're more than welcome to that.
If Lubec buys a cruiser, does it stay in Lubec?
It won't, right, because we're not gonna have a deputy that necessarily lives in Lubec.
We went through this before, we bought a cruiser and it kept going out of town.
And that's what I'm talking about, right?
I don't,
And we're not, and what I'm saying, that's certainly up to the town, but all of our people have a take-home cruiser. So we wouldn't keep a cruiser in town for the deputy to drive to Lubec to get in the cruiser to do whatever it is they need to do. Right, same reason why we don't leave them at the sheriff's office. Right, for someone to drive in there to pick up a car to go and do what they have to do.
sheriff's office is a lot different from Lubec than the rest of the
Keep in mind too,
town.
keep in mind too,
No, I get
you
it.
have to, so our evidence locker is in Machias, we're not gonna change that, and so these guys are gonna have to travel out of Lubec every now and then. It's just the way it's gonna be, and they're not, we're
That's
not,
not what's spent in down in Lubec, put it on the taxpayers, that's why it's not gonna stay in town.
No, and I agree, and that's why I'm saying, right, so that everybody knows up front, and that way, if you have information, people can make a decision. Right, so I think it's only fair to go, no, how this would have to work.
But Mike, that also works the other way. I mean, you might have a cruiser that's, say, for Callis. Well, we're gonna need it in the back every now and then. You know what I mean? It all works out. You just can't have one.
No, that's correct. If we're not assigning somebody to live in town and be here, the cruiser that everybody else paid for, that's the one that's here 3 days, or 2 days, or 1 day. So, now I don't know if that evens out, that's a pretty.
I mean, I was at the land the other day and I saw 4 of you fellows come by. 4 different cruisers. Boom. So I mean, that
How
all
many
evens
cruisers
out.
do you have?
What do we have, 15? Doesn't a couple fair, 17, maybe?
17, so,
And
yeah.
did you say each cruiser has one person that drives them and then
Yes.
gets home? So they're responsible for their cruiser, then if you really needed them, they would come out even if it wasn't on their schedule.
Right.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think we'd asked this 5 or 6 years ago, but was there any advantage to, for instance, the town supplementing some of that pay perhaps with them, if the town owned a piece of property or owned a home and had the officer live there?
I don't know. I mean, that's something that could be talked about.
I mean, and theoretically, the cruiser's in town, I mean, they live in town. Some of the benefit maybe that would reduce some of the cost is that their living expense or, there's no mortgage or tax. I mean, it's something that town maybe through some acquired property they have.
You're thinking something on the water, are you?
Yes. I'm just throwing different things out. I mean, for instance, churches support ministers in houses.
I think anything is worth a conversation. I don't know what the reality of that would be, but I mean, you can certainly talk about
So
anything.
how would you, what you're envisioning there, $160,000 for 43 hours of sheriff time, how would you envision those 43 hours in Lubec? So it's not gonna be Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, I mean,
No. No,
um,
typically how this is set up now, we work within our 43 hours. You work 4 to 4, and you work 8.5 hours and 1 9-hour day on a 43-hour week. So from 4 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, you're responsible for that. Deputies come out, work their 8.5 or 9 hours, whatever it is, but they may be subject to call after 4 o'clock in the morning, right? They may get called out to handle a complaint in whatever area they're in. You know, and then if you're working the night shift, you're responsible for 4 in the afternoon till 4 in the morning. Right, so we work those shifts.
But we wouldn't have one officer here those whole times because, or is that how you envision it? Like,
They would be here for the most part when they're scheduled to work.
okay.
With the exception of, you know, if they had to do something else, go to the office, go to court.
And would that always be the same hours every day, or?
No, it would be a mixture.
It would be, okay.
Some would be days, some would be nights.
Okay.
Now,
It won't always be off certain days. It usually rotates throughout the week.
And Mike, their ongoing salary would be approximately $97,000 a year after we bought the cruisers and all the equipment.
Yes, that's wages and benefits, and like I explained, you know, that's at a
And
5-year
that
person.
includes the 43 hours. So there's an upfront cost, and then, so Rachel, you had a good idea. I felt that we should discuss with Whiting and Trescott whether they wanted to chip in on any of this and do it
I would
as a
think so,
group
too.
and cut down the cost a little bit, and that way opening up the one
Yeah.
person to those 3 areas and maybe not putting all the
Our
burden on
borders
Lubec.
are so intertwined.
And one thing I'll say from my perspective is I wouldn't want to complicate this in, well, how come the cruiser, you know, the cop was working in Whiting for 4 hours, but they were only in Lubec for 2 hours?
Well,
and
that
then-
would be a problem, I see
But
what
that's
you
up,
mean.
that's up to you folks,
see,
right, and your neighbor.
Trescott's the state. I mean, that's the state.
Yes, and I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
Now,
a lot of money.
This
to the town.
43 hours would be on top of what you guys are in control of here, right?
if you wanted it to
Because,
be.
right, that's what I'm saying, because I know you guys are here already, I know that for a fact, I may have been stopped.
Yes.
They're here sometimes.
The problem that seems to be brought up on Facebook, one of the areas was speeding on North Lubec Road. I live there, so I'm not familiar with how that's all going, but it sounds like it's a problem. So how would we communicate, let's say if we didn't have a permanent presence, that we just added some hours, let's say, that you would come and be able to send an officer that, you know, and that would be the officer's choice? Well, how would that officer know how to
Right.
spend that time and target that
The
time?
best thing to do is to call, right?
Yeah,
And I don't want to offend anybody, but not put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how everybody knows.
Yes.
That's
where I get my
responsible
Facebook.
communication.
And
But
don't
if
call
people-
Renee.
If people call the dispatch and let us know, that's searchable, it's loggable. All right, how many speeding complaints are we getting? How many this complaint or that complaint are we getting in a certain area? We're gonna have time, we're gonna have days, we're gonna have number of complaints.
So it wouldn't be a 911 call? it would
No,
just
no,
be a
it would be a
regular call.
dispatch, just,
Okay.
you could call dispatch.
A lot of people are putting stuff on Facebook that they really shouldn't be putting on there, because we should be calling us.
Well, that's
And-
what I
and,
was
yeah,
just
and
wondering.
we'll look at it
how
like,
works.
what, why are they?
Because we may or may not know. I mean, if I happen to see some things,
Right.
I will call dispatch and go, hey, have we had any calls on this? I just saw this on Facebook, what's going on?
Could I make a comment on that? Just on your question there about speeding and stuff is, right now, everybody's heard tell of these house cameras and stuff. You can get them on Amazon and stuff for under $200, and if there's a lot going on in front of your house, as far as speeding or something, even if there was a cop, like sitting right down here at the post office, if you're out north of Lubec and somebody comes speeding by your house, he ain't gonna catch you. So if you had one of them home cameras or something, that would be more, at least then you'd have some evidence that something did happen.
Can you
And-
tell?
Well, if you
by
had a
camera?
cell phone,
Well,
you could take a picture of.
well,
Well, yeah,
yeah, but
but
I'm
if you're
saying these house
speeding, get your
cams
phone
you
out,
taking,
get
they
the camera out
work
when you're
even,
gone.
they
You're not
work
letting
even
them.
when you're not there. My sister just put, set in at her house, and they are motion sensitive, so whenever something comes within their range, they automatically come on.
Yeah.
And they film it, and at least then, they would have, when the police did arrive, even if whoever's gone, they would have an idea of who they are
Yeah.
looking for.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, like I said, by having a cop on full duty here, isn't gonna discourage anybody from that, because same as you mentioned earlier, sir, is that everybody has a phone, so anybody that wants to cause trouble can have their friends set out North Lubec corner and say, hey, I'm gonna go take a race down the road here, give me a call, if the car comes by. or something
I'll
else.
tell you, the thing is, you go by these houses on, after a weekend, front lawns are tore up, where somebody gets stuck, right down the
Skid
south,
marks on
right
the
down the
road.
south of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff that's going on,
Yeah, but it's beyond the capacity of the police department.
a lot of it's after, like 9 o'clock on a Friday night
That's
to
what I say, it's
2, 3 in the
beyond,
morning.
it's beyond the capacity of any police department, like I said.
Unless they're
with-
here.
With the, like I said, they've got enough, there's enough technology out there that if you're having a problem, if an individual, like if I was having a problem with somebody tearing up my lawn, then instead of recommending that we bring a cop in for 365 days a year to take care of that individual problem, then it'd be in my best interest and my best value to purchase a camera and try to catch that person on camera, and at least I could prove
Well,
that it actually occurred.
I do know one thing, my family owned one of the bars here in town.
Yeah.
And when Mike lived here, Rodney and Jack, we had a whole lot more people getting a ride home than, I mean, because these guys were here.
Yeah.
You weren't getting the people gonna drive home for your break.
Yeah, we're not here trying to, convince anybody that even if you decide to hire a deputy for 43 hours a week or 86 hours a week or more, that is going to absolutely 100% solve all these problems, everything will be fine. Right? But with what Jason was saying, the more time that can be devoted, the more likely there's some deterrence, there's some being in the right spot at the right time to catch that activity. You know, I will say with the cameras and stuff, it might give us an idea, it could certainly be helpful. We may be able to, if it's somebody on a regular basis, we may be able to go, hey, you need to slow down.
One more thing, usually if there's any notice of a dance or a major party or something gonna take place in this town on a Friday or Saturday night, it's pretty much guaranteed you guys gonna be here, whether anybody calls you or not.
If we can and we know about it,
No,
we'll
you'll
come and
be
take
here.
it.
I've seen very few occasions when there was some big gathering going on that there wasn't law enforcement here.
No, and we try to do that here as much as
So
we do
as far
everything
as,
else.
like I said, well, with, like Jason was saying with bar rooms and stuff, is, I mean, nowadays it's not, it used to be weekend drinking, that was the big drinking time. Nowadays, it's 7 days a week, people drink every day. And you're not gonna curtail that by, like I said, having a cop in this area is not gonna, having one designated to this area isn't gonna curtail that. Because like I said, they're gonna be on duty for 43 hours a week.
Or you won't know when.
Well, you don't now. You don't now, you never know when, if he's correct, and the way they set up the things, you don't know right now. When you go, like if I go out, leave here and go out by South Beck Corner, I don't know whether there's gonna be a cop sitting there or not, no matter what day or night. So that's about the best you're gonna get as far as,
I think
you know.
we had some other questions.
And I have a little
on that.
different take on that, just real quick before we get to those questions. Right, what's the sense to plow the road, it's just gonna snow tomorrow. But if we don't, eventually it becomes unmanageable, right? And so all I'm saying is, with any police presence, that's the goal.
Yeah,
is
well, that's
to-
what I'm saying though, is
Right,
what we've got right now, I mean, unless I'm unaware of a great big crime wave that has suddenly hit this town, I've been home because of COVID. I'm a merchant mariner, I've been home because of COVID for a year and a half, and I haven't seen no great increase in criminal activity and this, what they keep referring to with speeding and stuff, I haven't seen that many speeders. I live on Dewey Maury Street, and I've heard from a concerned individual that people have been taking the Dewey, coming off Washington Street, and taking the Dewey Maury Street, on-ramp, or whatever you wanna call it, at 45 plus miles an hour. I'll tell you right now that I don't care, on a good day, if you got a Formula One car, you could not take that corner right over 20 miles an hour without flipping over. So it's a mild exaggeration.
No, I understand.
I have a question about speeding tickets. So let's say there is a full-time police person working here in town. If tickets are issued for things like speeding, where the revenue generated from those tickets, where does it
It
go?
all goes to the state.
It all goes to the state. So the town doesn't.
No, the sheriff's office doesn't get revenue from that, the town doesn't get revenue from that. All the speeding tickets are paid to the state. Yes.
Is that true for all police departments in Maine? Or municipalities? This is just a curiosity question.
Yeah, I think there may be some way, to my knowledge, they don't do it, but tribal may be different.
Okay.
But there may be some avenue that they could get money from traffic tickets in their jurisdiction. But they don't.
Municipalities that have their own Biddeford, Portland and stuff.
They have, like, to make money, they have the parking problems and all that stuff. And that's where they can pick up extra money for fines and all that stuff. But the biggest percentage of the money is like any type of a ticket. It's gonna go to support the court system, keep that running.
Ordinances are different, and that's why a lot of times, we can't, or the DA's office won't prosecute an ordinance necessarily, right? It's an ordinance, it's not a law, it's not, right? So there's special ways that you can do that, and people can go to school and enforce your ordinance.
So that's a question for us that I have. Would a deputy here be able to enforce any of our ordinances?
If that's something we wanted to talk about, we certainly could. It would be a conversation. But again, if something like this were to be done, and Lubec is not gonna be any different than any other town that asks me the same question, right? If it's not a resident deputy, so to speak, the person here may not be able to enforce those ordinances. But that doesn't mean that, if something like that were to happen, maybe we do train a person or two that could handle those specific issues. It's a conversation. Somebody else.
Go ahead.
We're gonna have a really large gathering on Saturday for the Pirate Invasion. I was wondering, how can I request a police or deputy presence that day?
Typically, in order to guarantee a deputy be at your event, it's called an on-site contract. Right? You actually pay for the services of a deputy for 3 hours. Right? If you let us know the time and the date, we can certainly look at the schedule, figure out who's working, ask them to be, swinging through, coming down during these times. We're working with Eastport, we've got a deputy going over there.
Am I just calling the sheriff's department to set that up?
Yeah, just call, you know what, when we're done, I'll get your information. Why don't you just call and leave me a message, call you back so I can give it to the lieutenant? No, we'll get together before we're done and we'll get this straightened out.
So, when I look at, just because, obviously we could do this probably till 7 o'clock tomorrow night. You all have enforcement things to do.
I'd rather not, but I would.
I see it as right now we pay $5,000-6,000 a year for a couple hours a week. So there's stay the same, hire this $160,000 on the taxpayer, maybe share it with a town or two. The other thing I hear though, it's a habit also that we need to change. So like we have people going to Facebook, which is meaningless. I'm thinking of the third option being is we have some discretionary funds. Do you have the ability certainly that we can increase our input of money for some more hours, and at the same time maybe we, instead of neighborhood watch signs, which I recall you and I talking about saying it's only as good but nobody's calling, but it may be some posted signs in particular areas with the phone number that you call. Back to that, see something, say something. See something, call, and here's the number, and that's the sign on the side of the street.
And in doing something like that, I would just ask people to be patient and not get discouraged.
Right.
You're not bothering us when you call. However, we may not be able to come down and address that speeding vehicle right this minute. because we may be tied up doing something else, right? Or the person may not even be within 40 miles of Lubec, the person covering the slot. Doesn't mean it's not important to make those phone calls. Because like I said, each time this happens, it's a date, it's a time,
And
it's
it's
a record,
recorded.
right? Because we look at stuff all the time to see, okay, how are we doing on this or that? You know, burglaries, speeders, fatal drug overdoses, crashes. And we can break all this stuff down. I can tell you every crash that happens in Washington County, this personal injury that happens on a Tuesday at 3 in the morning. It's capable of doing it. It's just a matter of plugging in some stuff. But you can't do that if the information is not there.
Thank you very much.
So
for
and
coming.
the only other thing I would say, if the town decided, or they checked with their neighbors and everybody decided we wanted to do this, you know, certainly starting this out, I'd be looking for more than a 1-year contract. Right? And typically, the way these things have always worked is you had that contract, you could, either side could cancel within, it might have been as much as 30 days, right, if it's not working out. So all that stuff would be in there, so any other questions?
Comment more than anything. I live at the corner of Dewey Mallory, Townsend Lane on Washington Street. So I see and hear a lot of traffic and a lot of speeding. It is 25 miles an hour from Diamond Point all the way to the bridge. That's what the posted speed is. That's what I would like to have. That's it. It's not people from away. It's not long-term people, Lubeckers. It's a community where we need to protect our people, our animals, our kids, and it's an accident waiting to happen. There's a school crossing at the top of a hill and a curve on that section of road. And no, nothing's happened yet, but it will. And at the bottom of the hill is an international bridge. And the people that are coming through customs after the stop sign seem to think it's a raceway. On through. It's not. It's a residential area.
I live next door to,
What would you recommend?
And this is
So
why
I'm
we,
just asking for all of us to remind our family and friends, it's 25 miles an hour, not because there's a sign, but because it should be 25 miles an hour for safety. Thank you.
I just have a technical question. I know that those speeding machines, you know, where that blink when you're going too fast or whatever, do they also have cameras in them or anything like that, where you could actually take a picture of somebody's license that is going too fast? I mean, there could be that kind of a presence that would be moved in strategic locations just to say, look, we're watching it. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking there's a combination of things. Community, you know, maybe some additional police presence, but maybe not, you know, a whole year, maybe more signage, maybe calling or taking a movie, I think it's a great idea. If it's admissible, I mean, can we show
Well,
you?
with all of this stuff, sometimes you can get to the point where you can write a summons, sometimes you can't. It all depends, because we have that, little constitution thing we have to follow. So we may not be able to write a ticket, even if it was caught on a video or something, because we just may not be able to prove something. But that doesn't mean you can't go, hey,
But it gives you a
hey,
voice.
hey, see this right here? No, this can't continue. Right, at least you could go and talk to somebody, do some investigation, those types of things. Right, and any way to think about this stuff and think it outside the box, so to speak, that's fine and healthy. Right, because maybe there is a better way, or a different way, or some other things we could be doing when we're here that maybe we just haven't thought of, or somebody hasn't thought of. I would think they would a little bit. And I don't know what the rules and regulations are on putting speed bumps on the state road. Yeah, I mean, maybe, and I don't know what to do.
Is some of this state roads,
Some of it,
Yeah, all of Washington.
but I don't, I'm not sure.
We were putting one on the state road.
Right, I'm not sure, you know, maybe they have them that you can move. I'm not.
They make some you can plow over now. In
Yeah.
big cities, they have them, they plow over them.
Yeah.
They need to be larger though.
We call them
They look
culverts.
different than the speed sleeper, they used to call sleeping policemen. When I was a kid, like, I think those pair of plows. But
Yeah.
the big, longer, wide ones that are designed for that, plows can go right over.
Yeah, so that would be a question, you know, to figure out if that's even possible with the town roads. And check if it could be done on a state road. No, I understand.
In regards to state roads, and this might be a question that the select can answer too. I know that is a state road. Washington Street is a state road, so anything that would happen on that road would have to be cleared by the state. Does the town have any push in actually requesting something like that from the state? You know, I could send a letter or petition to them or something like that, but for the town
If it was
government
probably
contact the
DOT.
state and say, we really need something here, we need something right before the border even. You know, I gotta say, what I see a lot happening, I live on Washington Street also, is I see a lot of cars flying down the road, the hill, and then going straight to Canada. And it's a quick, easy hill there, you know, you just kind of coast down the hill and go right over the bridge, and frankly, you know, you're on that bridge, no one's chasing after you. If you're speeding, no one's gonna say, hey, you're speeding, or something like that, you know, so I'm seeing that a lot, you know?
Well, I mean,
But I don't, you know, so I'm wondering, could we do something to actually slow that down a bit, you know?
I think the
That's-
worst area along that road is at the post office. That confluence of
Yep.
roads that come in and the backing out of the post office. It's amazing to me.
Now, you guys are all concentrating on Washington Street.
I know.
Right.
I have a lot, 2 lots out on 189. You wanna try pulling out of those.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you because you're talking 70 miles an hour.
Yes.
Coming out
Have
of
any of
easy,
you-
it's dangerous.
Have any of you ever sat on the corner of Pleasant Street and Dewey Mallory Street going towards the treatment plant?
Yes.
There is stop signs for leaving the treatment plant and the other way, and I live right next to that. And I've sat out there many times and let alone stop, and they don't even slow down, they come from the treatment plant, and I don't know who the people are coming from the treatment plant, I assume they're going down business. And they come over there sometimes wide open, or whether the stop sign's there or not, it don't matter, they just keep on going. It's like might as well take it over there, so you're gonna have that, if somebody's gonna do that, they're gonna do it no matter where you put a sign. A sign's not gonna deter.
But if we get some more hours and we communicate with the police and call them and say, you know, this one person keeps doing this, or there's a bunch of people that are doing this, then you would get that information and you would be able to then come to, the officer would be maybe, you know, hiding on a day or, you know, and trying to at least make people aware that they could be caught doing it.
And that's why we asked these folks to come.
Yeah, that's
You
what
know,
I'm.
was out of these concerns.
But again, everybody, I'm sure, has their own gripes about, you know, speeding in wherever they live. And so we're not gonna take up all
Well,
the time.
it's not so
doing
much
that,
a
but-
speeding part, there's a
No, there's
whole
other
lot more
stuff
that
too.
goes on in this town than speeding.
But they would call you and then maybe with additional presence, you'd be able to come and, let's say, sit at that intersection.
Yeah, maybe, right, and with, the more information we have, the better we can analyze what we think is going to accomplish, what you guys want. Right.
And we can do that with our current arrangement.
Oh, of course you can, absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, Renee and I talked, I mean, several times you said, hey, we've got this issue, that issue. I passed it on to the deputies that are working down here.
So can I just ask, so you talked about the 160, is there options below that? Like, you know, if the town recognized that perhaps we do need some more police presence to address speeding issues and vandalism and, you know, and we need some more police time, but don't know that we're ready to look
No, not
for.
at this point we couldn't because we're tapped out.
Okay,
I need
okay,
people.
so it's one or the other, okay.
If we're going
Yeah.
to do extra in that manner, I need to hire bodies to be able to
So
do.
there's no more like coming up with 10,000 and making the hours more, it's like, you know, okay.
No,
That-
I mean,
that
people
answers my
can only,
question.
people can only work so much.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, and we're tapped out.
Sir, with this,
I look every time you say that, I'm sure you know.
with what she's saying though, with, this, what, you said 160 a year for one man. Well,
For 1 year.
yeah, for 1 year.
60 the
Yeah,
first
and then it's
year,
60
and then
the next.
97,000.
Well, I'm just saying on that, my question is, how, like, cause you've got your main seasons, which is usually June to October here, where you need the most presents. And I mean, from October till the following June, this is pretty much dead around here, this town. So would it be possible with that 160 for one officer, would it happen that you could take and you could have during that peak season, have two officers, and then in the winter, cut down the hours for the other officer?
Or a full
See
moon.
what I'm saying?
We couldn't do that because you need the extra body,
Yeah.
right? We don't get an extra body out of that figure. And with that figure, how that works, that's the initial cost, right? But you wouldn't have to, you know, the cruiser
So
wouldn't
you'd
have
have
to
to
be.
take, in other words, if you wanted for that peak time, if you wanted two officers, you'd have to take two for the whole complete year cycle. To have
Right,
them
if you
here
wanted
for
that amount of coverage. Now, that doesn't mean that if things were going on, I wouldn't have people, you know, come down anyway, as available.
Well, I'm just saying, there's a breakdown of that 160,000 a year.
And what I can tell you, they used to
Crap.
be quiet times.
It's not 160 a year.
Right.
Well,
I said the
it's the
initial
amount, I'm
first
just
year.
saying, just the amount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
The
initial
yearly
first
amount or
year.
whatever.
The 160 is your first year.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, any amount for that year, instead of having it,
Right.
you're talking about for 365 days cycle.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, instead of doing a 365-day cycle, break it down to a 90-day cycle at so much, and then break down the other 180 days or whatever into a lower amount of hours, or to, you know, so that you got the protection in the peak season, but you don't have just cops like you're paying for, like if you break down by the day, you're not paying as much for a cop to be here on July 4th as you are on January 1st, when it might be in
You
the
mean
middle
like
of a
on New
snowstorm.
Year's Day, after
Yeah.
New Year's Eve?
Well, I
Nothing
mean,
happened.
I'm
You
just,
really-
no, but I'm just saying, any day of the winter, in the middle of a snowstorm, you're gonna pay the same price for a man to sit here that day as you are for the man to sit here on the 4th of July.
I would
That's
be
what I'm
willing
asking. I
to,
don't know if they can do it or not.
I
That's
would
my
be willing
question.
to bet money that in the winter, it's a whole different ballgame for crimes than it is in the summer.
You would
Yeah,
think.
but it's like they said, if you're paying for their yearly protection, you're paying for 40 to 43 hours per week.
There would be no way for us to break that down like you would if you were running your
Need more
business,
people.
Yeah.
right? If you're running a business, you go, these are my peak times, I need more employees, I need more product, I'm not gonna need as much once the tourist season stops, I don't need as much product. There's really no way for us to do that. I will tell you, in my experience, we used to have slow times, we don't anymore. It used to be that winter time, it was kind of slow. It's not that way anymore, people are always out making money, people are out doing their thing, with crimes and drugs. We don't have that law. Now, I don't know per se whether Lubec has that law come January and February, but my guess is there's still stuff coming.
That was really my question. My question was just if the town paid for that, if that would be something that would be possible.
It would be a nightmare to try to figure out, okay, we did these many hours, we owe them this many hours, wait a minute, we'll work here,
That was
but
my
we can't.
question.
Yeah, we can't.
It would be.
So
Yeah, we just-
the next step is to go to a special town meeting or have another public hearing and then go to a special town meeting. But I believe Renee has mentioned to me that the time is ticking on this year's tax commitment. So financially, the town has approximately $900,000 in undesignated, and some of that is in uncollected taxes. I think $160,000 taken out of that is way too much for the town to absorb. There's a certain percentage in undesignated that we have to keep by the state law. So we might be able to get 50,000 of that out of undesignated, and then the rest would have to be rolled over to the tax commitment, increasing everybody's taxes. So if it's something here that people want to at least go to special town meeting to discuss before the tax commitment, that is the only way the town would be able to afford this proposal.
Can I threw in some quick numbers because I checked with Renee. We're thinking we have about 1,200 taxpayers in the town of Lubec. Okay, so at the 160,000 would be $133.33 for that first year per taxpayer, and then the 97,000 breaks down to about $80 a household payer to have that 43-hour police officer.
How can
Yes.
we as a board sit here, talk about money when it comes to public safety, when we blow $45,000 on a broken recycling system? I mean, really, it doesn't make sense to me. We're talking public safety here.
I think they're two different issues.
Well, it's all money. It's taxpayer money.
Yes, it is, and you know,
This is
people,
all
people,
business.
well, some people could argue 4,000 for a firework, you know, like, there's always something to argue about in taxpayer money in regards to where the priority is and who gets something
We
from
can
it.
piss away $45,000
I don't know if it's
on
pissing
that.
away.
Of course it is.
I don't know, that's your opinion.
That's
How
just
much
the
money do you make?
practicalness
I
of
wanna
it.
make
I'm
sure
not saying
that
you're making, you don't
you
have to
folks
make
that
money.
are here understand, and anybody that might be listening, even if the town right now said, hey, we have our pot of money to have our random patrols, if you increase that, I can't guarantee that we
Right.
can give you more hours at this point.
Yeah,
Right?
I think
The,
we'll do
the
that.
$160,000 figure includes the salary and then all of this extra stuff.
That's for you
The-
to hire another person.
Right, but that is a first year cost. The cruiser wouldn't have to be replaced the next year. Most likely uniforms won't have to be replaced unless something happened and, you know, they got ruined. You're not gonna have to buy another sidearm, you're not gonna have to buy another rifle, you're not gonna have to buy another radar unit, you're not gonna have to buy another radio.
But you are gonna have to like address a budget need that needs to have allocations that will address that cruiser in 10 years
Well,
or 5
it- well, it
years,
would
or
be-
will
it would-
address
It would be
that,
about
you
3
know, that
years.
clothing allowance, or like, so just recognizing
No,
that, you know, there are.
Then the next, in a cycle,
Yeah.
it's gonna be, okay, this has to be replaced,
Okay.
right?
Not to drag this on any further, but you mentioned Machias,
Yeah.
and they're kind of in a desperate, they don't know what's going on with their department. They
They're
don't have a
advertising,
department.
they're trying. I mean,
How many cruisers do they have?
I think they have 2 or 3.
And they already have all their equipment for multiple officers. It's you know, we could potentially work out something with them. You hire 2 additional deputies under the county, and maybe we can use their equipment until, you know, just for a contract to get them out of a mess, and we just share somebody from Machias to here. Then you're only waiting 30 minutes for somebody instead of Robbinston or Jonesboro or something.
But there is
Just so that I understand this.
Maybe they'd be willing to work a deal with us if we could share their equipment, their stuff that they already have, and you hire 2 additional.
Maybe, I
They
mean,
don't have police.
they're actively
No,
looking.
they'd have to go through the sheriff's
Right,
department.
they're actively looking for people. If 2 people got hired
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
month, I don't know how
Do
that
you
would work.
even have applicants for the sheriff's department that would even fill the spot?
I'm not really worried about finding people.
Oh, okay, you think you'll be able to find
But I
somebody?
can't say that until we advertise. Right,
Mark's
because the sheriff is a delight to work for.
Man,
Hello. So, to sum up what I'm getting is, if we aren't going to try to allocate more money or get more money from the taxpayers, if we ask them for more time at this point, even if we give them a little extra money, they haven't got the time to give. The thing we need to do is communicate and signage, get people to call, put up the sign that says, take this number, maybe take this guy's suggestion and put up cameras, and do some self-policing of our own people in our own town. Which costs us the cost of the sign and the communication.
As a start, anyway.
To start, yeah, to start.
Yeah.
I say take it to the people. Put it on an article.
It's not
And let the
on-
people
I
vote.
think
People
I
put
said
it on their
that there's
Facebook,
another
they all say
public
like,
hearing.
oh, why are you going to Facebook, you know?
What?
I think have another thing very nice.
When is the time frame exactly?
First weeks of October.
So we're talking 3 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, folks, it's not up to this board. It's up to all you. It's up to you guys. We brought them here. I've heard a lot of people's concerns. I get out and about just a little bit. I see a
Yes,
few
you do.
people every week, just a few. They're here because of your concerns. We cannot say yes, we cannot say no. all of you need to say yes or no. This board cannot do it for you. This town is run by you folks,
We can
not
call a
us.
special town meeting, that we can do. And we can write a warrant, so
Right.
that's our job, is to legislate what you want. So-
Right, you folks run this town, we do not.
Can we just?
And we're not here to advocate really one way or the other. We're just trying to provide accurate information so that everybody can make a decision and kind of know what you're deciding on, and this is how this works. Right, so
It's
that.
important to know that.
Can I just ask you folks right there, just a quick straw, how many people would be interested in pursuing hiring a police officer in the future? Looking at that tax commitment. Okay?
So half of them, how about the other
I would
side?
be
So I
interested,
think
if you
I'm
ever
going
get
after
staff,
one, so I think-
I'm sorry?
I said, I would be interested that we add additional hours once, if you're able to have, you know.
I mean, you could, if
Can't
the
have
town
both ways.
decided
No.
and the board wanted to add additional money for extra hours, if we could do it, we would.
I'm saying, we
And,
need to.
but I'm not gonna guarantee that we will have the manpower to do that. There may be times that we could do that and give a few extra hours this week because it worked out. Yes.
Given, I'm going to ask you to expand on what you just said. If Matthias gets his sales tax together and if Eastport gets his sales tax together, would you anticipate that you would be able to do a lesser amount? This is crystal ball company.
Yeah, no, I know, I get it.
Yeah.
No, it would make sense that we'll be in a better position to do that, because we will have less, at this point, I'm just gonna call them extra responsibilities, that we didn't have a year and a half ago. So the short answer is we're at a firm maybe.
That's fair.
So it's possible.
Well, I propose we have a meeting, another meeting, which would be to discuss, the two options of having, well, three options, obviously, of having, somebody permanently 365 days, and then the, possibility that if Matthias, not to have it and put as much demands on you, that we have some extra hours added.
See, I know a woman that's a really good negotiator. I'm sure if anybody could make it happen, it would be her.
I think the only reality of the situation is the warrant time issue around the tax commitment that has to be completed by October, and the way things work.
Yeah.
We'd have to write a warrant that people would vote on. Do you favor X? You know what I mean? So like we have to, and then you would have a public hearing before you have that town meeting to do the vote that, so I just,
All right,
we
we don't have really a lot of time.
don't have a lot of time to have like another
Not
meeting
to
for
have it happen this
discussion.
year.
Right, so.
And from our standpoint, from my standpoint, as the chief deputy and kind of head of patrol, in working with the board or Renee, I have zero interest in trying to put something together that I think is going to fail. Right, I don't think it's fair to you folks, it's not what you're asking for, so I can tell you I won't do that. Just to say we did it, we now have, a deputy, we're gonna go try to do something.
So do you think you're gonna have a special meeting? Is that what you're saying? And then,
Well, I think we were taking a poll to see if they wanted a special town meeting, but
Half
that's where
is
we
better
can
than half,
discuss. At this point, with the time frame of the tax committee, because money is, although not enough, it's obviously not important when it comes to somebody's safety, but if there are rules on how much undesignated that we can pull out of, there's a percentage, correct, Suzette, that you cannot go below. So we can't take $160,000 out of our undesignated. I believe we calculated we could take up to 50. Is that correct? So the other 110 would have to come out of the taxpayers, put on this tax commitment this year, which is about being done the first week in October. So if we're gonna have a special town meeting, which involves a warrant and advertising and other legal matters to get it pulled together, that's what we'd have to go do.
We'll have to
between now
aim
and
for
then.
the first week of October, because Barry just mentioned the county's budget meetings start in October, and they need to know this before those meetings, so
So we can
we'll
do
aim
last
for the
week in
first week of,
Or the last week in September.
yeah.
Okay, I
That's
think it's worth putting on,
One
we have a
hand.
couple other things to put on anyway.
Can we get a breakdown of the calls for, say, the last 3 years and some measure of severity? What they are, whether they're burglaries, whether they're,
Yeah.
first off, is there anywhere we
Yes.
can just go and do that? I
Yes.
assume not.
Oh, yes, no.
Oh, we
Oh,
can.
yeah.
Well, you can't, I can get it for you.
Right, Would it be useful to have the actual figures of 3 years? What have been the calls in Lubec, and, what are they for, or how serious, what I'm saying is, what is the gradation of them?
Before we do that, the only thing I need to know, kind of what we're talking about for calls, right? When I think of that, I think of accidents, whether it's personal injury or property damage, assaults, burglaries, thefts, sexual assault, criminal threatening, criminal mischief, disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, if I didn't already say that, remove subject. I can give you ambulance calls. I realize that's not a police matter, but those are all figured into that. I can break it down a little bit into motor vehicle complaints or traffic stops. But I mean, we have, I think, 80 somewhat crime definitions. I'm not gonna give you a night hunting unless that's something you really want, because I can tell you it's different.
Are you looking for like cycles?
What I'm looking for is if we want to consider taking on a deputy, shouldn't we know, what is the hard numbers of what has been the, I want to say criminal, but it's not criminal, it's the calls.
But if we had a deputy here,
We don't,
what
it's not in the
action-
town
We don't have
report.
a police department.
You know what I'm saying? What would it be if we had a deputy here? If we had
Well,
a-
Is it in the
sure, well, we
Break
don't
down
know
each
that,
town?
but what we could know, and if we're going to make some kind of decision, it would be useful to know what have been the calls.
Yeah, right.
You might be able to make people make more educated decisions if they're voting for something like this.
What I can certainly do is I can go, I think, to the middle of 2018.
Okay.
I think April, we switched to our current records management system.
That's
I
3 years.
don't still
That's
have
3 years.
access
That's good.
to the one back from that.
I think it's probably 2 or 3 years of what we
That's
can get
perfect.
is probably.
Mike, what you can do is, if you give that information to me, I'll create a tab on our town website. Once he gives that to me, and I'll upload it right to
That's
that.
what I want to
You
hear.
want me to just, I can put that in a spreadsheet.
Yep.
And I can just email you the spreadsheet.
I'll put it on the
Page one will
website.
be 2018.
It'll have
page
its own
29.
tab.
Also keep in mind though, when you're looking at that you keep your pandemic in there too, and kind of keep an eye on that, because that just,
Yeah, that changed everything.
oh, yeah.
Make it worse or better?
I mean, it is what it is, and everybody, I think, can go, okay, a lot of last year was not the normal,
Right.
or certainly, parts of that with everybody being out and about.
And keep in mind, it's been current events that have kind of sparked this, and those aren't gonna be in those statistics.
2 weeks
I can
ago,
do that right up until
Oh, okay.
whatever day I make this.
2 weeks ago, there was a 4-wheeler stolen on the dump road, and another 4-wheeler stolen on the Dixon Road, same night. I mean,
And were they reported to the sheriff's department?
That's what I was just gonna ask.
I was just gonna ask you about it. This is what's going,
Oh, it was on Facebook? Oh, wow.
no.
I don't look at that.
I know. See, I heard it from the folks that it happened.
About 8 town signs were stolen.
One presumes for insurance, if nothing else.
Causes all the.
Yeah, I can find that out.
Yeah.
They didn't.
No, I know that for a fact. Down south, we got somebody
That
off
should be
the road
everything
drunk.
our people report.
Well, that's the thing, it's a crime that's taking place, it's not reported, then it's not a crime.
That's right. That's my point.
And don't you dare write that down.
See,
Sometimes what'll happen is people will
That's my
have a
point.
theft
Yeah.
or something and they'll say, I'm not gonna report that, they're never gonna find it. Sometimes we end up at a place and we go, wow, there's a lot of stuff here, probably half stolen. And we start searching and looking, but it hasn't been reported. We may not get your gas can back, we may not find, any of these items I'm a believer of always make that report, because we may not find it today, but we might in 3 months. When we are at somebody else's house and notice something. And I will look too. I'll know that when I give you those, because I'm sure that just, that will go on with that.
Well, we'll let you know when we're gonna have our special town meeting,
Okay.
Great.
sooner than later.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, just let me know, Renee, I'll start working on that tomorrow. And as soon as I can get it, I will,
Just bully us around a little bit there.
All right, thank you guys.
Oh, no, you're welcome, hopefully we'll entertain you.
Y'all don't wanna hear about the sand pit,
I got a whole bunch of stuff. What am I gonna hear about that access?
No,
The one that you bugging me about.
Would you like to know that if this building
Yeah,
had been
of course, you know that.
I would have saved money during this whole meeting.
That's what? I had no idea. I had no idea. I've heard nothing. So what happened right after? With the 2 weeks on Tuesday, I can get you a license plate because I have pictures of the car. I photographed the car very carefully.
Is that the guy that?
It's still there.
Yeah, but he's the one that. We did sign.
Oh, you know the tower bridge section, or is there no donation to?
Well, you know, the agenda.
Yeah, right.
We're still in session, sorry. We have the rest of our meeting, Barry.
Nice, carry on.
I'll send you another email with the license plate on it.
Okay, then I'll put the track. All right, thank you, home.
Okay. Next on the agenda is open sand bins.
Just calm down over there.
we get around there.
It's just the
Maybe after we.
sand is all. So we have sand bin from Mary Lane, so that's H&S. Danny, well, Blueberry Lane, I know is Danny Hall. Is it not? There's 2 people on Blueberry Lane? Who is it? Oh, his brother? Okay, Hall Trucking. Jason, who's Hall Trucking? Oh. Are they related? Brothers, oh my golly. It's wild. Okay, let's fix that.
They keep the police department case.
Okay, so I guess this one is H&S is Danny Hall. So this is 1225 per cubic yard or 1,500 cubic yards. The winter road maintenance to be screened 3/8 of an inch less is described in the advertisement for the bid. This one is 1290 per yard or 1,500 yards. What should we do with these bids? And that was from Paul's Trucking, which I understand is somebody.
Do we know what we did last year?
Well, everything is triple in price, so
But we're taking less.
we're taking less.
Want to make a motion to go to the lowest bid?
Me too.
So, who made a motion?
Yes, Lois.
Motion for H&S. You seconded, Rachel, all in favor?
See, Carol gets control of this meeting and it's just zipping right along.
Yeah.
Well done.
I wasn't
That's
going
why
to.
she's our fearless.
The next update.
Yes.
Who got excitedly involved in a wonderful meeting?
I
Right.
said we would have saved money if we had panels on the building with the lighting.
No, it's all good.
This is what I gave them, Henry.
So this is the revised contract now that when you had the reduced amount that you could use from the state, right?
Correct,
Or was it federal?
State, yeah,
State.
yeah. And apologize that the last meeting was a little jumbled with the audio. in the
Right.
screen. But
Yeah, so essentially the state changed the rules for solar, and so now we're limited to.
And this is all we can do.
Yeah.
For how many
the
years was
moment,
it?
For the moment.
Is it five, is it a certain amount of years or?
So the new program is gonna be in place supposedly starting in 2024. And this winter, they're supposed to come out with initial set of recommendations for what that new program is gonna look like. So we can start getting a pretty good sense of, what we're gonna be looking at for 2024.
So this is for now to 2024?
So this is,
What's the term of this, please?
so this would be, sort of, I guess you could sort of consider it as its own standalone
Okay.
solar project for, 20-year term.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And then if we can add on, that would be another separate 20-year term.
Is this why this is highlighted in 20 years and it stops there?
It's bold.
Yeah, so that's, showing 20 years, and then, ideally, typically we'll have extensions in the lease up to 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's something we'd be interested in talking to the town to, if the town has the ability to go beyond 20 years, we'd be interested in
So
pursuing
could
that.
you explain the difference between scenario A and scenario B with lease rate fixed and lease rate escalator? What that means simply?
Yeah, so that was part of the RFP asked that we give these two different scenarios of looking at the lease rate would be the same rate over 20 years as opposed to the escalated price, which, starting year one, you have a certain
Oh, I
rate,
see.
and that goes up each year. The total amount goes up 1.5% per year.
So what's the difference between A, I got that, thank you. Between A and B, what's that?
So A is the project that we can do right now,
Okay,
the smaller reduced project, and then B is the potential project that we could start in 2024.
oh, okay, so A would run, contiguous, what is that word? Continuously, for 20 years.
Right.
And then this could be added on if the regulations allow you in 2024.
Correct.
So when we're signing this contract, what are we exactly agreeing to? Going forward with A and maybe B, or we're giving you permission for both? In other words, you can do A, and if the state allows you to do more, scenario B just kicks in along with, is it both prices, both? Or is it 25 and 39, or is it just goes up to 39? Is it the least fixed price? When
Oh.
scenario B kicks in,
Yeah.
what would the 39, 150 include the 25, 8?
No, that would be in addition to the 25
I think that's what I was trying to ask.
And you got to.
It's been a long
So-
time. I can't think.
So say we start project A now, that comes online in end of 2022, say. Then scenario B, that project comes online in 2025. A has been going on for a couple of years, so that has been increasing 1.5% per year. And then B comes online, then that rate would then start escalating. So they'd be at different escalated rates, but they would be all one combined.
So we still have to choose if we want fixed or escalated, correct? That's our choice? And it has to be done at the signing of the contract?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Does it say how many acres will be used for each scenario?
On page 5, the project size. Scenario A, 12 acres.
Yeah,
Scenario B, 15 acres.
Yeah, 12 is the max for now.
yeah, that's basically what.
And that would be 12 plus 15,
Correct.
28.
Assuming we can do B a couple
In
years
20
down the road.
years.
The two questions I have, one on it, and I think it was answered before, in any of this contract, whatever happens down the line, and let's say, whatever, out of
Yeah.
business, whatever happens,
Yep.
in the contract, will it be that you would have some responsibility to remove, or, that's a yes, and B, because I don't know, and if it's something the town looks into, so you're putting it on, fixed price on a per acre, is this a standard equation that Nexamp does, or it's like for lack of better tact here, you know, you go back and go, oh my God, we just got Lubec at like $1.89.
One of those, just put your drink in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. Or is this a standard, I mean, is there any reason for us to go, okay, wait a minute, you know, because I heard, you know, Waterville was getting, you know, $3,800 per
That would
acre
be,
or something like that.
that would be up to us to do our due diligence.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And you're asking the, him.
Where
He's
they're
not gonna say-
benefiting, this is not like build a house and it's mine. I mean, this is something
Well-
it would be in their interest as
Land on
well.
Waterville is worth a little more.
I mean, as of right now, we all know why there's been a stay on all of this anyway, because the people on the other team are going, hey, hold up here, folks. This is going a little too fast and we're losing a little revenue.
Well,
So your first question, yes, it'll be in the contract.
Okay.
In addition, the state legislature's past session passed a bill that all projects greater than 3 acres are required to submit a decommissioning plan to DEP for approval. And within that plan, it includes a bond or some sort of financial surety to be put in place before construction. And then that gets reevaluated 15 years after the effective date for the cost, to make sure it's keeping up with inflation and all that. And then that's reevaluated every 5 years after that. You know, for the lease rate, it depends on, it's really project by project. And we look into, you know, the interconnection cost is a huge driver. And sort of the, you know, competitive nature of bidding, you know, obviously that's a sort of different scenario. Project the size for some of those earlier ones that are 20, 25 acres, you know, they can support a much higher lease rate. I do think this is a very competitive, for what it's worth, in my opinion.
We did put it out to bid. It went out to bid
Yes.
for a competitor.
Yeah,
the first one,
yeah, this one.
the second one went out twice, because this is a reduced, it only went out the first time.
Because the law changed. So that
I
was-
understand, but now we have, so there were other requirements, and one which we couldn't see from the water or from 189, is that gonna be in the lease? Because that was one of our requirements. I know that was specifically
Yeah.
something we requested.
Yeah, and if that's something you want to add into the lease,
There would definitely be something in there that,
and obviously, so we're in the process of sort of redesigning our initial layout. And so that's something we'll share with the town to get, you know, initial feedback. And it's going to be, you know, an iterative process, so we can, you know, do a design, send it to you guys for feedback, take in your comments, redo the design, and you know, work with you on that to make sure it's not, as you say, you know, visible.
These solar farms are far from ugly. They're not an ugly thing, that's for sure.
I'm pretty sure everybody that I spoke to would be very happy that we put the requirement that you couldn't see it from the water or from the road. There's plenty of land there that you can keep.
It's not like a windmill.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be trees, it can be like bushes, I mean, because, so the solar farms are low to the ground, are they not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the top height of the panel is, you know, 10 feet. Give or take.
Wow, I don't think we can take this time.
There's nothing to sign here, right?
No.
Yeah, so,
This is just for discussion,
Okay,
yeah, so we,
next steps.
okay, oh, very good.
If it were in fact though a windmill, would we have the same choice of not being seen by 189 in the water?
No.
Or like Route 9.
Yeah. I'm sorry, let me just wipe all that sarcasm.
And you've been way too quiet, I knew something was gonna come out.
so basically, in terms of the agreement, our lawyers just kind of going through the template that was provided in the bid. So we can provide some comments, we can incorporate, you know, the language about being seen by the road and the water.
Our attorney drafted
It was,
that.
Yeah,
it's
so
in
we're-
there.
It's already in there.
It's already in there, that's what,
That's
that's
it, okay, all right.
already in there.
So, and then we'll get that back to the town, and we're working on the updated layout right now, we'll send that along as well.
So that's the next step, you give us a preliminary, if we give you a go-ahead, you go for a little design to show us?
Yeah, so I think next step would be, Yeah, I mean, I think the design will be done, you know, in the next couple of days. I can send that over. And then ideally get the lease signed, and then that will allow us to submit the application to utility to get into
Well,
their.
let's put it on our next, we can put it on our next
Next
meeting then.
agenda.
So do they need to vote to go with
Forward.
this proposal?
Well, I guess I guess the vote for, I mean, one scenario would be if it's the fixed or escalated, which option the town would want to move forward with, so we can put that into the lease.
What caused, I'm unsure that, what causes the difference? What,
It was just an ask in the RFP that we provide two different scenarios.
The escalator gives you a difference of, if you go 40 years, it gives you a difference of 40, it looks like $40,000. And the other one would be,
oh, okay.
And it's been off the tax
it
rolls.
was quite a bit more on the other
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. I see.
So I think that if you're starting at 23 instead of 25 and 36 and 39, I would recommend we go with the lease rate escalator.
I agree.
That's, it's not A or B, it's lease rate escalators. It's just the difference between fixed and calculate. They obviously have some sort of formula that they're calculating this as and making it go up each year. But the bottom line is you make a little more money. I'd say that, why not?
Right?
I think you have to choose scenario A or scenario B, right?
No,
No.
Within scenario A, it's either A or B. It's fixed
Oh.
price or escalated price.
Go right ahead, that's your
And
job,
that would
isn't
work
it?
for both scenarios if we were able to add to the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah.
So in essence, are we signing for 40 years or 20 years with a renewal? I mean, I'm not sure, do you want to commit for 40 years or?
I thought he said 20
He
earlier.
did, but
20
he's
years
got
in.
40 years.
Well, that'll
here.
pay for the
40 years with
wastewater treatment plant
extensions.
and the police department.
That's right.
Yes, let's sign shop right now. You were the right person to be here. We can-
Make money, so spend it.
There you go.
All right, so do you need a motion or something? Because I'd make the motion that we go with the lease rate escalator in this
Yes.
scenario.
Yeah,
I'll
right,
second.
second. All, doesn't matter, Jason second. All in favor? Okay, there. And as far as, now, so that was just a question. Is it, are we accepting a 20-year with a renewal or are we doing 40? I would prefer to do 20 years and then revisit.
Renew it.
Because so many
Yeah.
different things,
Yeah.
it could be totally new technology, maybe you don't want to do it again, maybe you're saying, oh, maybe you're like done, the solar, but I mean, would they accept that, 20 with an option to renew?
Yeah, I mean, we have 20 years and then say, you know, after year 20, they
We
can be
can
extended
revisit
by
everything.
mutual agreement
Perfect.
for another 5, 10 years or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. Want to do that?
Yeah, I'll still be around.
Motion.
Make a motion, we have a
20 years.
20 years with an option to revisit the contract mutually.
I'll see you here.
And that would also mean, though, that the decommissioning, we might have to kick in.
Just in case, Renee, you can have my vote if I'm not here.
That's right.
But I expect to be there.
Did you vote?
Yeah. Well, like this.
All right, you want to second that motion then?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Question back here as well.
Are we allowed to ask questions about what Steve's talking about?
You can. And this particular select board allows that, yes.
Is this for a solar panel field? I was just curious, if there's any like safety implementations for
Can't hear you.
wildlife?
Say it again.
I was wondering if there's any safety implementations for the wildlife. I've kind of worked around some solar panel fields before, and they attract birds to them, thinking it's water, so I just don't know what the size of it is and if that's been already taken into account.
So it's, so the size, you know, it's gonna be roughly around 12 acres, which is the total footprint of so it'll be a fence around the array. You know, in terms of, you know, birds, we actually have, you know, a lot of birds that end up nesting within the racks. so they're big steel racks and there's crevices in the racks where birds will actually, make nests there. So, we haven't, run into any issues, in terms of, wildlife being harmed or anything. I think in general, it does obviously kind of change the local ecosystem, but then it does provide, sort of meadow habitat for other animals and birds and stuff. And then, obviously with the fence around it, sort of protects it from, I guess one time there was actually a deer that jumped the fence, but generally, it keeps, animals out from the array.
Yeah, it just seems like a big deal where the birds kept thinking it was water out in the desert and they would just fly in and
Right.
just basically crash or burn up.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's gonna be an issue here because it's not a desert.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think some of those issues were with there's a solar project, there's a different sort of technology where they have these huge big mirrors
Yeah,
that reflect the light into a central location.
yeah, they flew through.
Yeah. So here it's just like a tempered glass panel, which is really designed to absorb all the light. So it's actually less reflective than water. So it's a sort of different technology, which I think should, make sure there's no issues with birds being confused. Yeah.
You don't get any more questions because my phone number wasn't picked for the raffle, so.
That's right. You didn't win nonetheless.
Oh.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. No,
Thank you.
excellent.
Yay.
Appreciate you having
Thank you
me.
for your patience.
I came all the way from Massachusetts.
Wow.
Oh, you're kidding, did you?
No, you know what? But speed while you can. You never know.
Watch out going by the church, I can tell you.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Where's Suzette? Suzette, you're up. Public hearing September 15th on general assistance ordinance.
State has redone the general assistance ordinance, and we don't have to, but highly recommended that we update it. We need to accept it. This is a public hearing. I do have a printout of the changes, that I'll provide at the public hearing.
So is it going to be a half hour before our regular meeting at 5:30?
Yeah, if that, yeah.
Or can it just be at the beginning of our
probably
meeting at
could be at
6
the beginning, I
and
mean-
our meeting to follow? Because I know
exactly
Jason
what
has
we
trouble
don't
getting
do.
here and Dan, and I do too. So can we just have the public meeting to start?
Yeah.
And then we go right into our meeting after?
On
Okay.
the 15th.
On the 15th?
Yeah, so.
September the 15th?
Yes.
Okay.
So
2
we
weeks
have a
from
motion to, I make a
Oh, we did.
motion that we have the public hearing for the general assistance ordinance.
So moved.
All in favor?
Seconded.
I think Dan seconded it.
Dan seconded it, he said so moved.
Oh,
I guess I
was gonna wait for her to
yes.
meet with him.
He is Rachel Mojo.
That's right.
So, apparently we have a quick claim deed to sign.
Suzette has one other thing to talk about.
Oh,
It's
okay.
this main person, if you wanna release her.
Oh, okay. Suzette, main purse.
They're in the process of making some changes. Basically, number one, normally when you start employment, you get a chance to join main purse, it's either now or never. They're in the process of passing a rule that you can have a chance to join later. I don't have all the exact details, but they'll have open enrollment time. It's if you've been employed within the last 5 years, and it will be, if anybody join, if the town, if the select accept it, and the town, anybody wants to accept it also, it's collected after tax, not pre-tax.
Is that for retirement, employee
Yes.
retirement? So now they're opening up to more people?
Yeah, like, say when I started employment, I didn't accept it, I rejected it. Now I would have the chance to join it.
So you need a motion from the select board to allow that in our town office?
Yeah, the main purse isn't voting on it until September 9th.
But how about we make a motion that we would accept their ruling,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
if they accept what their ruling is?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Is that better?
And I can revisit it on the 15th, if they accept it.
Okay, that's great. Quick claim deed, thank you, Suzette.
Cleaned up for this one.
Jason, you'll have those things, you know.
I make a motion, we sign the quick claim deed to going to Jason and Susan Evasius.
One second.
All in favor?
But you're not allowed to put a speed sign on your property.
Okay.
You don't want to.
Next is while you're signing that, please sign this after the way your name is written there, with initial, middle initial. The Legion has submitted an application to register for Beano or Bingo game at the Legion. Do we have any objections to allowing them to do that?
I don't.
I don't
No,
know.
I think
Want
it's
to do a
great.
motion that we, I think sounds like fun to me.
Fine, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're all going. Next meeting will be held at Beano. Do we have a motion to accept? Is that a motion? Yes, Jason?
Yes.
Second? All in favor? Okay, Nina.
You can sign it tomorrow, but we're gonna, we needed a witness for that deed, so I needed Suzette to let you guys watch you sign it. And I'll notarize it. You're good now, thank you.
Wow. As you move, so her eyes move.
We're good. Sign. Letter to the cog.
Okay.
Okay, Renee wrote this letter. To Washington County Council of Governments, the town of Lubec is in receipt of an invoice for membership dues fiscal year 2021 for $1,180. We have the understanding that the Washington County COG is without a director and therefore not able to fulfill services or obligations to member towns and cities. The town of Lubec did not receive any services for the fiscal year of 2020. It is with great hope that the Washington County COG can once again become a stable and viable council of governance. But until then, we are choosing to withhold membership dues. If the situation improves by our fiscal year 2021 end date of June 30th, 2021.
Two.
No, we have 21.
Yeah.
Two.
See, we caught that. Please let us know and we will reconsider the membership dues. There are a number of towns that are requiring assistance in updating their comprehensive plans, including Lubec. We are having to rely on another outside agency for assistance for this project, where in the past, the Washington County COG was active and helped greatly and was much appreciated. So, we have a motion to sign this
I
letter?
move that we sign it, and I wholeheartedly agree with it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? And you've been there.
We haven't had a meeting since Judy East left. Nothing.
Oh, you know what happens when you lose a good
Yeah.
person at the top,
She's a good
they go
person
somewhere
and-
else.
She is saddened.
Okay, auditor adjust agreement? So,
It's something you sign every year for.
well,
comes
she
down
had
in
it for
October.
we gave her 5 years,
Mhm.
one each,
Well, this is the
renewable
one that she
each
does
year.
every year, yes. Renewable.
Right, but, and it goes only for 5 years. So we'll make a motion that we sign the
And I
auditor.
think it's just one rule,
Oh.
so maybe the chair, just says governance.
Governance signature.
Yeah.
Governance signature. All right,
Sounds nice, doesn't it?
do I have permission to sign this agreement with the auditor?
So,
Feels good.
All in favor?
And I'm gonna be sending this to the wastewater treatment plant impound tank repair project. They needed this, so, and I signed the contract today for the construction.
When's that gonna start?
right.
So,
I'm not sure, it's not gonna be till January that he gets ours.
oh, and I think we have Natalie here. Well, actually, no, I don't see her on here, but I know
She's
she's
in public comment.
Okay. So, you're on,
Uh-huh.
There's no airport.
you're up.
Airport.
Oh, it was just, she was just updating us, I just thought we'd skip anything we didn't
Okay.
have to listen to tonight, it's a little late.
Okay.
We're gonna wait to see if we get the money. We're halfway through updating it. Natalie.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm with the Lubec Celebration Committee, and I'm here today to request closure of Water Street from Johnson Street to Summer Street between the hours of 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. on September
Where's
4th.
Johnson? Oh, Johnson
That's a
Street,
brand.
Summer Street.
It's
right.
just,
Summer Street, so
my,
who knows?
I want it to be closed off by the boat ramp area, just that strip.
Well, so I also went to Eric today because I knew you were gonna ask for that and talked to him and he said, well, in all of the businesses and the fact that you have to, get around the town. And what was the time again you wanted to close?
Between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m.
So I think that the only celebration that I'm aware of in the last 10 years is the marathon. And we did close Water Street and I was the head of closing Water Street for 7 years. And managed all the blockades and all of the staff that we had to volunteer to stand there. And that was because it was a Sunday. So I don't recommend that the whole Water Street be closed, but I do have a map of the area that I think could be closed if you want to look at that. We closed Main,
Yes.
you close Main, you close the entrance to the boat landing from, you don't get the parking lot because they have to park there, people have to park in the parking lot. And then, well, you'll see it, and then the corner, when you're going around Pleasant, so the corner of Pleasant and Johnson, so there's enough area there that I think could be managed and closed off.
Yeah.
But the requirement is that each closed off area, and there are 3, that a physical person, which we did for every marathon, stood there the entire event and made sure nobody went through, because believe me, they will go through. If you walk away from your barricade, they will drive through.
Yeah. We had, the light, the yellow uniforms, we had
And
cones, we had
so
everything.
you can close it off in that area, that's what I'm proposing, of course, we need to have a vote.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Because
That's
then you can
usually
still
what we
get
do.
to Eric's,
Yeah.
That's
and still
usually-
get in and out of the town, and of course, you also have to get signs, Renee's agreed to make them, that says the boat launch will be closed from 9 to 11 for safety, and so, but that has to be out tomorrow morning, because there are fishermen that need to get there before 9, they need to get there after 11, and they should be notified immediately.
Did you
'cause it's-
talk to the state about the boat ramp?
Well, they're
Yeah,
not closing
I
it.
have the permit with me today.
For the boat launch though, not the parking lot itself, correct?
Yes. Well, also including the parking lot.
That's impossible. But the fishermen would have nowhere to park.
They're parked there, they'd be allowed to stay
Well,
parked
that's
there.
what I'm
if
saying.
they left in the morning.
Right.
We're just recommending they do not pull in or pull out
Of the boat launch.
of the boat.
Oh, no, that's fine. I agree with that. They can't. It's too many people invading. It's not safe. I agree. But if if they launch their boat like at 8 and they're parked there, then they can stay there.
Yeah.
And the people attending your event can also park there. So will you be able to get 3 people to stand there at those barricades?
I was not planning on these barricades. I think I also brought some maps. I've been working on this a bit. These were the barricades that I was imagining doing. If there would be X's that say are a lot, and I was not putting into account that I would need someone on each one. I thought perhaps I could have someone in the vicinity of 2.
You can't.
If I can't
It
have
doesn't
it,
work. Sorry.
sorry. If I can't have it between 9 and 1 p.m., perhaps then just between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. My main concern is that we have a treasure hunt planned down the street.
On Water Street.
On Water
And
Street.
my answer to that would be they have to be with a parent.
Yeah,
Because
would
I don't know how you would
Yeah.
possibly close Water Street for just 1 hour. First of all, you couldn't get the cars off. I just don't physically, you wanna have, I don't see it, does anybody else?
I don't see, especially on a Saturday with the market and
The market
the
is-
hardware store and, you know.
This is on Saturday?
Yes, this Saturday. I mean, I just wanna let you know, that when the marathon came to do all of this work, they came 6
Yeah.
months in advance.
Yeah.
Then it was a Sunday, which doesn't
Yeah.
involve Eric, who's been the oldest, longest business here, who needs, like he said, I don't mind if you close Water Street, but are you gonna carry the 5-gallon bucket of cement out to the car?
Yes, I spoke with him, and my recommendation is there are side streets which are on that same block. And as a hardware store, does he not have any dollies that he could use to assist his customers?
There's no side streets that are accessible to the hardware store. There's Main Street, there's School Street, and those, that's not a side, there's neither one of those are side streets.
I think in the past for the Pirate Festival,
Yeah, I guess I was just confused.
we've always
by
closed off what we were proposing.
I think that's plenty of room. Main Street,
School Street,
Boat
Main Street.
Landing, and that whole street in front of Go Hills.
I think that's what we've done.
Yes, that's what we've done.
So then not even from the boat ramp to the farmer's market, would you consider?
That's the whole street.
The whole street.
That's the, well, the bikers, they do, yeah, you can't keep the bikers out, they always go down Water
Yeah.
Street
The
every year.
bikers would be allowed in
Oh,
for,
wow.
because it's kind of like a parade as part of the event.
So you're gonna put bikers in?
That is my
They
suggestion.
would be allowed to come through at least once or to do a roundabout and come through as a
This is
display.
before the kids do the treasure hunt.
Yes, yeah, this is about 2 hours before the treasure hunt.
Okay.
I'm not gonna vote to close the Water Street at all on a Saturday, except for that area there. It's
Yeah,
too
it's a
disruptive, we're
tricky-
one little town with huge amount of tourists, and they're just not gonna know where to go or how to drive around the town. I mean, that at least gives you a flow of traffic.
Yeah.
Cutting off Water Street altogether it's just, it's not doable.
If this is all that we're gonna be allowed, then I would like to move this one up here, closer, not so far out, but just in here.
Well, I originally had that, but you don't want that whole street?
No.
Nobody can get to it. In other words, it would be safe.
I'm very limited on volunteers, so I
Well,
just feel
that's
like
the
the
answer,
closer I
the
can
question
keep them.
right then.
Yeah.
You have to have, we have 100 volunteers running the marathon, and we closed Water Street
Oh,
down,
yeah.
and we had a person in every single blockade, all the time, the entire 5 hours. They couldn't, we had to have substitutes just for them to go
Mhm.
use the restroom.
It's a huge
They,
issue.
nobody could leave. So, you still have to have, so you can man it better, let me see. So you can, well, that's where I
Or maybe
originally put
halfway
it.
here, maybe halfway, but not,
Well, then you're gonna have somebody turning and they won't be able to get back out. If you don't,
they
you
wouldn't
don't-
be in this area.
no. But
Okay, I
Yeah,
see.
you
So what you're
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
is,
put it
yeah.
over
you
here.
move it here, they're gonna turn and
Okay.
you're gonna have a bottleneck, that's why it
Okay.
has to be there.
They'll park
We
there.
always had a thing right there.
Right.
Then I can accept that.
Okay, so, and 3 people,
Yes.
okay. From what time? 9 to 11, right, or 9 to 1 you want? Boat
Well,
landing is only
because
9
it's
to
not,
1.
because it's not considering the rest of the street for the treasure hunt, it kind of defeats the purpose, so I'm fine with it being 9 to 11.
Okay, because the boat people have to, there's people with pontoon boats, Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion then, or? So I'll make a motion that we approve the closure of, Water Street
Designated
as
portion.
identified in the last picture, right, from 9 to 11 on Saturday. With the volunteers manning each one.
On Carroll Pond.
On Carol's drawing, yes.
Second? All in favor? Sorry.
That's all right, I also just had some other things to bring up to verify.
You're doing a really good job. I hope you don't get it. It's just, maybe they invade us on Sunday, it would be, that wouldn't be as much of a problem. Really,
No, I
that's,
understand, it's business.
Yeah.
So I was told that we could perhaps use the lamp posts that are on the street to supply power to the food vendors that we have coming up. So so if I
They
can,
usually leave the
that's
check.
a go.
No, they're not.
Did they come, were they free?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
good.
I don't need a generator, but I don't have one.
Yeah, I've been
Noisy.
calling around for generators
I
and
get
can't
your
get them,
message.
so that's where I'm just gonna depend on those. We'll find a ladder or something so that you
Is
can.
there more than, how many folks are over there in
Dick,
that
do you
area?
know? Do you know which ones work and which, there's some that doesn't work and they never will, because we have to dig up the sidewalk to make
Do
them
you
work.
know if Cohills or Water Street Tavern is gonna be open for that?